Brothers and sisters, I'm sure you've all heard today's gospel reading numerous times in your life. Have you ever wondered why Peter asked Jesus to beckon him to come across the water? Was Peter putting Jesus to the test to prove the extent of his power? Was he just being impetuous, as it seems he had the capacity to be in other places in the Gospels, and was thus making an imprudent, ill-conceived request of the Lord? Or was he simply and humbly asking Jesus to show that it was him and not an evil spirit trying to deceive them? After all, Peter did say, "If it is you." These opening words would tend to suggest that Peter was not putting Jesus to the test, but sincerely seeking to know if this mysterious character walking on the water was Jesus or not. If this final scenario is the true one, then it seems that Peter already knew that Jesus had the power to make it possible for Peter to also walk on the water. No evil spirit could give a mere human being the capacity to walk on water. But why did Peter need to walk on the water? We'll come back to Peter, this question, and the whole walking on water experience. Brothers and sisters, I've quoted numerous times the ancient Latin philosophical saying, virtus in media stat, which literally means virtue lies in the middle. If virtue lies in the middle, then there must be two extremes where either virtue is absent, or even worse, where vice lies. Let's consider an example such as the virtue of courage. Defined by the Oxford Online Dictionary as the ability to do something dangerous, or to face pain or opposition without showing fear. The two extremes either side of the virtue of courage are foolhardiness or rashness on one hand, where one jumps into a situation without considering the implications or stopping to think about whether it is what the wise thing to do, and cowardice on the other hand, where one is overcome by fear and so unable to take on any danger or risks. In the extreme, both are, in a sense, vices. In the first case, for what one has done, and in the second case, for what one has failed to do. When Peter at the Last Supper claimed that he would die with Jesus, he was in a sense being foolhardy, making a claim without considering whether he was prepared for such a death. Then what happened to Peter when Jesus was arrested? He fell into the opposite vice of cowardice, denying Jesus 3 times. In a matter of hours, Peter went from one extreme to the other. Thankfully, after Peter received the gift of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost, he balanced out and went forth spreading the good news with the true virtue of courage, a courage that saw him face many trials and tribulations before finally going to the death he once pronounced in rashness to the Lord he would be happy to face. Crucifixion in Rome. Brothers and sisters, if we carefully consider the many natural positive human attributes which could be considered virtues, we'll see that there are often two negative extremes that we could fall into, with the virtuous position lying in the middle. It is important to stress, though, that they're not simply 3 distinct positions on the line, but there is in fact generally a continuum. One is not either perfectly virtuous in the middle or imperfectly vicious on one extreme or the other. One could be anywhere on the continuum between virtue in the middle to slowly fanning out to vice on either side. Returning to today's Gospel reading, we see Peter again swinging between one tendency and another. In the first instance, Peter requests Jesus to beckon him to come onto the water. As I said earlier, he probably knew about Jesus' power and was not asking out of a sinful presumption. If he was, Jesus would have denied Peter's request. But brothers and sisters, why did Peter need to walk on the water? Jesus could have said no, but I think he was trying to teach the impetuous Peter something that day. Anyway, Peter started to walk on the water, in confidence that God was with him and he was fine. He perhaps even had a bit of pride in the sight of his brother apostles, and Jesus was going to allow Peter to experience the effects of that tendency to presumption, even though, as I said earlier, Peter hadn't fallen all the way into the vice of presumption. Suddenly the wind picked up, and Peter swung past the middle point, the virtue of hope and trust, and ended up doubting and started to sink. He didn't fall all the way into despair, for that is the vice at the other end of the line, but again he moved away from the middle point. Jesus saved him, saying, "Man of little faith, why did you doubt?" Peter had to learn, as we do too, that virtus in media stat. Virtue lies in the middle. In time, as we know, Peter grew in prudence and wisdom and moved more towards the centre, ultimately becoming the saint that God had called him to be. So, brothers and sisters, let us take stock, assessing our own lives, motives, words and actions to see whether we are at risk of swinging towards one extreme or the other. And if we find ourselves there, let us call on the Holy Spirit to guide us back to the middle so that we too, like Peter, may go on to live good and virtuous lives and become the saints he's called us to be.